Welcome back, everybody, and happy Monday. Today we're going to be doing one last day of comparing fractions. However, this time we're going to be looking at the fractions in a word problem. Let's start with our first example. While baking bread, Miss Belote needed to measure out her ingredients. In the recipe, it called for 2/3 cup of flour and 2/8 cup of baking soda. Miss Belote is curious which ingredient she will be putting more of in her batter. Help Miss Belote by comparing the fractions and determining which is greater. So, in my problem, Miss Belote actually wants to know which ingredient is greater. So which one she's going to be putting more of in her batter. Let's break this word problem down. I know that I have 2/3 cup of flour and a 2/8 cup of baking soda. If I'm not sure how to compare these fractions with the same numerator but different denominator, I'm going to start by drawing a number line. I'm choosing a number line because I think it's easier for me to make sure my models are exactly aligned. When I draw my number line for each one, I need to make sure they're the same size. Otherwise, my comparison is not going to work out. Let's draw 2/3 on the number line first. It takes 2 lines to cut my number line into thirds. This will be 1/3, 2/3, and finally 3/3. I know this is 0, and 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. I'm going to mark 0 and 1 whole on my number line on the bottom, but this time I'm going to be cutting it into eighths. To start, I'm going to cut my number line in half, then going to cut my halves in half. I know that's going to give me fourths. And finally, I'm going to cut my fourths in half to get eighths. So now I know I have 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and finally 1 whole is the same as 8/8. Now I need to compare 2/3 to 2/8. So I'm going to draw a box all the way to 2/3. And I'm going to shade that portion of my number line. So right now, this is what 2/3 is going to look like. Now I'm going to do the same thing with baking soda. I need to go all the way to 2/8, which are these pieces. I'm going to shade it in. Now that I can see 2/3 and 2/8, I know for a fact that Miss Belote is going to be using more flour than she is going to be using baking soda. I'm going to write that out as an equation. 2/3 is greater than 2/8. Let's try another problem. Kedrick and Angeline are entered in a race. Kedrick runs 3/6 of the race before pausing for water. Angeline runs 3/4 of the race before pausing for water. Who ran the farthest before pausing for water? I want to know who runs the farthest or who ran the greater amount. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before by breaking my word problem up. From my word problem, I know Kedrick ran 3/6 of the way before pausing for water, and Angeline ran 3/4. So again, this step is extremely important. I'm going to draw my number lines, but I'm making sure my number lines are the exact same size so I can actually compare. There we go. So I can actually compare my fractions. I'm going to start by creating sixths. I'm going to cut my number line into thirds first. When I cut thirds in half, I get sixths. So now I know I have 0/6, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6. 6/6 is the same thing as 1 whole, so I can put a 1 over there. Now I'm going to show fourths. I create fourths by partitioning my number line in half, then partitioning each half into halves, and now I'm left with fourths. So again, this would be 0/4, and I can even label like this. 1/4, whoops, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, or 1 whole. Just like before, let's actually shade to the fraction we need. Hedrick ran 3/6. So that's going to be these three pieces here. I'm going to shade them in so I can see them a little better. Now I have a good visual representation of 3/6. Now I'm going to shade all the way to 3/4. 3/4 are these three pieces. Again, I'm going to shade so I can actually see my piece. When I compare these two pieces, I can see that 3/4 is a lot larger than 3/6, meaning Angeline ran further. I'm going to write my equation out like this. 3/6 is less than 3/4. Next, it's going to be your turn. If you have scrap paper to use, draw out your number lines to create the fractions that you